G'day you bloody legends, welcome back to the channel. My name is Economics Mate and this is WOT Blitz, and welcome back to another video. I can't believe we're making more videos now. We're on a roll and we're going to continue to be on a roll. Now in today's video we're going to be talking about map awareness. Now map awareness is one of the most important aspects in WOT Blitz. It is how you win games. Believe it or not, it's not all just about skill, it's not about how good your tank performs, it's not about the stats of your tank, but rather it's about being aware of where you are on a map, is understanding the dynamics and the playstyle that's required in every map that you play. Now since leaving Blitz and coming back, there's been a number of new maps that have been added, and I'll be honest with you, a lot of these maps that I've just happened to jump in battles to and played on, I've been quite unaware of what the hell I'm supposed to be doing. And that's exactly how I think new players would be thinking of when they're jumping onto Blitz for the first time, or they've only started to play and they have a few hundred battles under their sleeve, but they haven't really played in higher tier tanks in these maps. Because let's face it, there are some maps that are only accessible by lower tiers. And I believe tier 6 and under is when these maps come available. For instance, perfect example, Copperfield. Copperfield is only accessible to those who are playing tier 6 and under. And Copperfield is a very, very old map. In fact, Copperfield's been in the game, I believe, it's one of the oldest maps in the games. But map awareness is very important, basically. If you start playing the game, and you are jumping into a battle in a tank that you've barely played, right? Understanding the tank and how it plays is very important, but being aware of where you are on the map and where specific spots are that are perfect for the tank that you have is essential when you're playing the game, and it's essential for wanting to win battles. Now, believe it or not, understanding how your tank adapts to different environment and terrains is actually very important. Yes, there is actually terrain resistance stats. It's stats that you will not see that are in the game statistics of a tank, but rather you'll find them, I believe, on a separate website. To be honest with you, I've forgotten what it is, but I believe it's Armor Inspector. It might be Armor Inspector that you'll see these terrain resistance stats. But essentially what that means is it's how your tank performs and how it drives and how it's able to maneuver through different types of environments. So let's say you want a sandy map like Desert Sands or Oasis Palms, right? If you have a light tank or a medium tank, usually speaking they have good terrain resistance stats. There are only a handful of tank destroyers and heavy tanks that have similar or pretty decent terrain resistance stats, and it's usually the ones that have more power but also have wider tracks. Now wider tracks doesn't necessarily mean more traction, but it does mean it's able to maneuver through those harsher environments, right? There are actually places in maps that have, like, let's say muddy terrain and there's more grass, or there's like marshy sort of areas, or through water, and yes, it is more difficult. You'll see your tank is actually slowing down ever so slightly, or you can't seem to traverse the tracks quicker than you thought you could in different types of areas. So even stuff as little as terrain resistance plays a big role, right? So always, if you have time, check out your tank's terrain resistance stats before you go into your battles, right? And play in training rooms. Go into training rooms, explore the maps if you have time. Explore different types of maps and understand the dynamics. Preferably have a tank, or like vary your tanks from heavy tanks, light tanks, medium tanks, tank destroyers. Tanks that have good gun depression, tanks that have horrible gun depression. Tanks that have amazing frontal armor when you've put it on a hill and you're basically peeking over, right, and using your full gun depression. And tanks that have horrible armor profiles because it's just flat. Right, you need to learn the different dynamics, and learning the dynamics of your tanks is a great way to adapt to different maps. But understanding the maps and knowing places to hide, knowing places that you can, You can keep your tank out of sight, or you can use the hill on certain areas as your defense and use your what do you call it, your gun depression to your advantage in certain areas. Makes a massive improvement on your playstyle, but also the outcome of a battle. You'll notice that a lot of pro players, especially when they're playing in all these competitions and and all these events, you'll see that they're very aware and they understand how each and every map is supposed to be played with the specific type of tank that they may have. You always have that one tank that you gravitate towards the most, whether it's at tier 10 or tier 9 or tier 8 or tier 7 or tier 6, and that you're most comfortable playing on all kinds of maps. But the trick here is, when you're playing with other tanks, is not necessarily to master each and every tank. No, understand how your tank plays, get a feel of how you're supposed to play it and what its stats are and its weaknesses and strengths and whatnot. But mostly, find out how the environment is on these maps. Where are the good places to hide? Where are the good places that you can side scrape? Where are the good places that you can use your full extent of your gun depression to your advantage? Where are the places where you can side scrape and use your gun depression to your advantage while attacking the enemies, or basically taking damage or taking shots and absorbing them while your friendly tanks or your team goes around and flanks, which is another big thing. Places where you can flank. If you know on every tank and you see a pattern on these maps, right? You see a pattern, you get used to a pattern where I used to be able to predict, because I've played so many battles and I've played on so many maps. There's certain maps where you can basically predict where the enemy team is going to be. I'll give you a perfect example. Himmelsdorf. If you're playing on Himmelsdorf, right, a lot of the time, medium and light tanks are going to go towards where all the trains are, right? All the train tracks and the trains are, and the carriages, right? Whereas the heavy tanks and typically the tank destroyers will go towards where the abandoned buildings or burnt out buildings are on the other side. And sometimes there'll be light tanks and whatnot, they'll go through the middle where the cap circle is to sort of spot the enemy teams on either side, right? And that's usually how it is. And what happens is those light and medium tanks, usually if there's no one there, they'll flank around, right? And they'll attack the enemy team from behind. And then you're completely screwed, because that team knew that that area there is usually where you're going to find the light and the medium tanks, right? Now, being situationally aware in that case, be like, okay, I'm not going to go there because I know that the medium and light tank is going to be there. How about we set up a defensive position with tank destroyers in this area and bring our heavy tanks this way, so that we can use them as sort of a steadfast thing, and then we can use our medium and light tanks to go around to flank the other team. And then basically you'll know, okay, well, they're going to be overwhelmed. Now, I'm not saying guess, or you can try to predict what's going to happen or what the outcomes of a battle is going to be, but having that experience does help. But again, that comes with playing battles and playing the game, right? Same thing goes with learning each and every map. I'm not saying memorize all the spots on the map. No, in no way, shape or form am I asking you to do that in order to be map aware. But what I'm saying is just get a general idea of the layout of the map. Where are the hilly areas? Where are the areas that if you try to use your gun depression on a hill and you try to shoot tanks below you, are you going to get hit from tanks from the other side? Right? Are you going to get hit from tanks that are sniping you, like a tank destroyer or a light tank or something that's on the other side of the map that can see you clear as day? Are they going to be hitting the side of your tank? Are they going to be damaging you? You need to have a place where you can confront the enemy team that are in front of you, but also hide your weaknesses from enemy tanks that are on the other side of the map. And that is how important map awareness is. And perhaps the biggest thing here as well is making sure that you support your team. Look at what your team is doing. If your team are following you and you're the leader, do your best to basically do it in their best interest, right? Guide them. Tell them, guys, I want you to go left. I want you to go right. I want you to go towards where the ruins are. I want you to go towards where the water is, where the lake is, where the hill is, where the bridge is. Guys, let's flank the bridge. If you know the map and you know the different areas and you're sort of used to it, use that to your advantage to help your team, so that way you can win more battles. And at the same time, look and see how pro players play on certain maps. Use the knowledge that you've gained from watching these events and watching these tournaments. Look at how these players play. Look at their map awareness. Look how good they maneuver around a map. Right? They don't just go head first and boom, done, blitzkrieg through. No, they're very careful. Right? They're calculated. They take calculated risks when they can afford to. When they're low on health, they will try and preserve their hit points as best as they can. And in that case, for instance, you peekaboo. You go in, shoot, and go back into hiding straight away. And wait for your reload and wait to reset your camo. And just so you know, on most tanks, the camo reset is 12 seconds, which is about the same amount of time it takes for a 122 or 120mm gun to reload. Right, on a heavy tank. So you should always wait over 11 seconds before you go back out, because that is when your camo resets. Now that's only for heavies, tank destroyers, and some medium tanks. If you're talking about light tanks, the camo resets about, I believe it's like 8 or 9 seconds, so it's quicker, right? And you basically have the same amount of camo ratings, right? You have the same amount of camo rating as you would on the move, right? In a light tank. Whereas if you're moving in, let's say, a heavy tank, your camo rating is decreased, essentially, right? So knowing your camo rating is very important. Knowing these little tips and tricks and hints about the game really helps you improve your map awareness as well. And just playing battles. Play battles, learn the game from there, watch tournaments. Just go watch tournaments. Look how good the teams are at being aware of where to be on the map, where the usual spots are, where the usual suspects are going to be. It's very, very crucial that you learn each and every map to your full extent to ensure that you know what you're doing. And that is the most important thing of all. Guys, I'm going to leave it up there. I hope you basically get what I'm getting at, and you know the importance of map awareness and how good map awareness can be and how it can benefit you guys in game. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below on how you guys are more basically use map awareness or want to use map awareness, and I'll try my best to answer as many as I can. You guys are bloody legends. Love you all. Take care. Peace in the Middle East, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.